All right, let's see what we got here. I guess we clocked in. Hey, what's going on, party people? It's definitely a great pleasure to have you guys here. If this is your first time, welcome. I go by the name of Lespri. I am a spiritual healer. And essentially, as a spiritual healer, what I do pretty much, I help you to become Christ like, Buddha like, or Krishna like. And what that simply means is that, well, what all of that means, because I mean, it's simple, but there's a whole lot that comes with it. Now, what that simply means, but also, what all of that means is that I help you to attain your highest level of consciousness. And I help you to do so by helping you now to become mentally and emotionally balanced. And why do you need to be emotionally and mentally balanced for you to attain your highest level of consciousness? Well, that's because if you are, let's just say, emotionally unbalanced, we know the fucking repercussion of that. Meaning, you never seen someone who's in love. You know what I'm saying? They wouldn't do the same thing as if they were not in love. You know what I'm saying? Giving you all giving her all of your money. You know what I'm saying? Washing her drawers, whatever the thing is. But you kind of get the point. In fact, when we call somebody or when we say to someone you're being too emotional, we also acknowledge that there's certain things around them that they do not see. And on that same note, this is very important too. Like, I want you to keep that in mind because in just a little bit, I'm going to be talking about spirituality. So I want you to understand, like, our process of the way we are, the way we function, it's not as physical as it may appear to be. Because for me to know who you are, I have to get to know you. And that means I got to pass through, or I gotta go beyond how good looking or how ugly you are. So it really doesn't matter. Do you get the point of what I'm saying? And this is what we're saying. And anyway, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here. So let me go back to what I was talking about before. So yeah, obviously, so if you're being too emotional, what that means is that there are certain things around you that you don't have the ability to see. And if that's the case, so that's because your emotions have a direct impact on your intellect, and which ultimately would translate into your vision. Because we all see life through our intelligence, our emotions, and our intellect. That's your vision. And this is why your vision, it's your creative reality. I mean, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here, but listen, man, I fucking love this shit. What the fuck you want me to do? But besides, just so you know, I mean, I'll make sure that you'll get the best of the best. You know what I'm saying? So please bear with me. I know it's part of my introduction, but also as you talk about one thing and it leads to something else, and not to mention me enjoying, like I am eating off of this. I'm feeding myself too. But anyway, just bear with me for a second. It's only 3 minutes. It's 3 minutes in, so you know what you're in for. But anyway, again, this is all revealing our essence. But keep that in mind once I get to that, spirituality part of my routine. But anyway, so therefore we acknowledged, being emotionally unbalanced. It's not the best. You're not gonna have the best mental clarity. That's why sometimes when you're mad, you might want to walk away. Because it's not the best time for you to make a decision because you're not seeing how as you're supposed to. Because obviously your emotions do have the ability, or does have the ability, to throttle, to block your intellect to a certain level. And guess what? The same thing happens if you now saying to yourself, you know what? I see what happens to people when they are being too emotional. As a result, I'm saying to myself, from going onward. I mean, forward, forward on. So you saying to yourself now, I'm gonna be all logical or intellect. When you do that, first of all, you become very rigid. You become very logical, and guess what? There's certain things that's in front of you you're not able to see neither, and that is because that little bit of emotion sometimes it allows you to relate a little bit more to other people. The best way for me to describe this, I always tell people like, if you know the whole the prostitute that was brought to Jesus, and if you remember, if you know that story, then you'll know according to what the law says, this is what you do. Now Jesus, now what he did was adding a little bit of love into these motherfuckers' heart to open up their vision. To open up their vision. So having the highest state of understanding or consciousness implies that your emotions and your intellect must come together. You must be in fucking alignment. Because on one hand you're gonna be too fucking rigid, on the other hand you're gonna be a bitch. There is such a thing as emotional intelligence. That's what you want to become. So when Jesus replied to these motherfuckers, hey, whichever one of you guys without sin or who have never sinned, go ahead and throw the first stone. What is that saying? Is that I do acknowledge what you're saying. Yes, she is not right. Who is all the way right? You see, it's adding more logic to their logics. That's when you need to add a little bit of emotion into your intellect to expand it a little bit. You see that shit all the time with people that came from the ghetto. Like when you take, all right, I'll give you a perfect example. Perfect example. This nigga, Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? This motherfucker was a fucking immigrant. Didn't even know how to speak English. Granted, I got it. He loves America. Hey, congratulations. I mean, I do too, nigga. What the fuck? In fact, not just America. I love the world. Okay. So as a result now, being a fucking immigrant himself, and if you remember he became what do you call that? The governor of California. He was even harder on other motherfuckers. Where was his fucking heart? Now, what was he doing? Wasn't it right? I mean, shit. I mean, depending on who you asking. Don't ask me that shit, because I really don't give a fuck. I honestly don't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? But it really, when it comes down to, man, people have been doing this for years, man. Like, I'm not originally from here. Like, people have been traveling the world. Like, the world belonged to us to begin with. So that's why, for me personally, I'm not even concerned with those small details. But again, to be considerate, because I understand not everybody's on my level, not everybody sees it that way. And, people have their their fucking prides and all that good shit. You know what I'm saying? Keep it up. All I'm saying here is to help you to understand. You know what I'm saying? Like, has he had a little bit of love, a little bit of emotion into his heart? His whole approach would have been different. First of all, I am one of them. Like, for me, if I'm not supporting another immigrant motherfucker, there's no need for me. There's no way I'm gonna go against none of these motherfuckers. I'm one of them. But you know what? But for me to feel that way, or even to be that way, you see, this is where the emotions comes in. right? Me knowing who I am, me accepting who I am, me loving who I am, all of that shit. But anyway, not to be stagnant on that, just to, you know, make a point when it comes to, you know, how important it is. You know, you can't be too logical. In fact, when you are, if you're saying you're gonna be intellect and just choose to be that, well, your intellect is gonna lack more intellect because the emotions, you know, expand your intellect. But anyway, so now, what do I mean by by your emotions and your intellect coming together? So let's just take it up another notch, right? This is all describing, or this is all me letting you know what I do and how I do it. So how do I help you now to become mentally and emotionally balanced, or what do I even mean by that, right? So when we're talking about being emotionally balanced, what I'm referring to is you acknowledging your emotions, you understanding your emotions. Hold up, man. I've been doing a whole lot of talking here. Hold up. Let me get some smoke, niggas. I got my smoke on, man. What the fuck? I've been doing a whole lot of talking for like 11 minutes. But anyway, let's get to it, right? So, what am I talking about here? Being emotionally balanced is for you to acknowledge your emotions. But that acknowledgement entails you understanding what is it that your emotions are telling you, what is it that you're feeling, and not suppress it. So then when you have that connection, then at this point it allows you, if there's any type of blockages, then you have the ability to do it, to remove them. But first, you have to be in connection with your emotions. That's why when you suppress your emotions, you're not gonna have control. It's not having control over your emotions. Suppressing your emotions, it's not. It simply means you don't have control over your emotions. And when you choose to do it that way, this is the foundation. That's the actual recipe for toxicity. And you'll see most people who are toxic, their heart are not open. Those are heart